All right. Welcome to the Lead Generation World podcast. Thanks for joining me for another episode. My name is Michael Faree, your host, as always. We got a great discussion today planned. We've got Karol Kelner and Alexander.higson from CJ Affiliate out there in the UK. So we're going to be talking everything lead gen as it relates to the UK and what they're seeing across their platform, which is really insightful, and what verticals they're seeing be successful and which ones are struggling, and all the different things they're doing to help the industry continue to grow, which I think is great. We've got Lead Generation World London coming in April 12th and 13th at 2021. And our mission is really to bring the industry together, help educate, provide content sessions that are not only helping agencies learn how to generate leads, but also the brands themselves generate their own leads, work with vendors to generate leads, work with companies like CJ Affiliate to run campaigns, and then also how to close the leads, what the processes are for not only buying leads, but what do you do after you have that lead generated. And so a lot of great content. And so it's really great to bring on these two gentlemen to talk about what's happening and what they're doing to help support the industry as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on Karol and Alexander. All right, welcome to the Lead Generation World podcast. My name is Mike. We've got a couple great guests today from the UK. We've got Karol and Alexander from CJ Affiliates. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Michael. Good to be with you.
Yeah, good to be here.
So this is the first time we've had multiple guests on. I think it's going to be kind of fun to talk a little shop and, hear about what's happening over there. We've got Lead Generation World London that's going to be taking place in April. And, having a lot of conversations and a lot of people from the UK, listening and watching some of these podcasts. So it's always great to bring you guys on board and see what's happening over there on the other side of the pond, so to speak. So welcome.
Good.
Yeah. Before we get started, why don't we just do this? Introduce yourselves a little bit. Tell us what you guys are, what you're doing now, in your position at CJ, and then we'll dive in from there. So why don't we start with you, Karol? I'll go from there.
So I've been at CJ for about 2 years now. I previously came from Map Digital and Teradata, so the other side of the lead gen space as well. And I am the senior client development manager, so I'm responsible for obviously selling, running campaigns, obviously developing the publisher network, pretty much the whole 360 approach to lead generation, right, from closing the deal to obviously delivering the campaign as well.
I've got a bit of drilling going on. Hi, nice to meet you, Michael. So I've been at CJ for pushing on 5-6 years now, so quite a long time. I previously worked over on the conversion side of the house alongside Karol, because Epsilon, which is a sort of holding company, we were part of the Epsilon Conversant CJ group, and we sat as a team in that Conversant network, and we shifted over to CJ officially at the start of this year. So we've been getting used to the sort of affiliate side of the business, and trying to align ourselves a bit more to CJ and that CJ mentality. But yeah, I've been in the company, I've been in the business for a decent amount of time now, so a lot to talk about, I guess.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and we should note that there's construction going on in your apartment. Right?
Apologies for that. Yeah.
So we got some drilling happening. Is that what's going? What's the construction taking place?
Don't even know. I've this morning I was like shouting, like I was going on mute and I was just shouting shut up out the window.
Yeah.
It's been quite frustrating, but it was completely fine up until we started the podcast.
Of course.
Well, it has to work like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's totally fine. It's not even really that. It's probably more annoying to you than anybody else, But we'll push through. So Epsilon purchased CJ Commission Junction. Like when? Tell me a little bit about that acquisition. Is that how it went down? Because Commission Junction was its own company at first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were previously owned by a company called ADS, so Alliance Data Systems, um, and they owned the Epsilon Conversant CJ group. We were then purchased by Publicis last year. So Epsilon, Conversant, and CJ, we all moved over to the Publicis agency. So now we sit under that network of media agencies, and we moved over offices from Putney to White City. So there's a famous building, the television centre, the BBC Television Centre here in London, and that's where Publicis and the agencies are based. So we moved over there probably, what was it, Karol, like September time last year?
Yeah, it was September last year.
So it made sense in terms of like the purchase and the shift over to Publicis, and certainly for us as a team, because our main clients and our main agency is Publicis and the agencies that sit within that framework. So when it was being discussed about, potentially a buyer for the company and Publicis was on the table, we were like, that's a great thing because we can come closer to our clients and start really, adding more value to like the activity that they're running. So the shift over to that Publicis mentality and the Publicis agency has been really good.
Yeah. So, tell me about the services. Obviously, we know about sort of the affiliate network of CJ, but tell me a little bit about the all the services that are sort of offered now within that conglomerate.
That's a lot. We're going to be here for days.
Maybe you can simplify it.
Yeah, I think definitely there's definitely. So I think media is a big pillar, right? Paid media. We also have data and the whole data analytics. And obviously, we have the affiliate side to the business. And then obviously, we also have our CRM personalization one-to-one on a scale platform as well. So those are kind of the four pillars. And you have all the creative agencies on the Publicis side as well. And then obviously the media buying and planning as well.
So a brand can come and work with you guys on all these different aspects of the company. Obviously, they can have the affiliate side, they can have their own brand and paid media and all that sort of stuff, and sort of be a one-stop shop. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think over the years, since the company has grown in size, different companies have come in and been able to invest a lot of money, a lot of revenue into whether it be Conversant, CJ, Epsilon, the suite of products and channels and what we're able to offer to our clients has grown. But it's important to note, like, data has always been like at the forefront of what the company is about. That's what we always base our activity on, and it doesn't matter which product we're promoting to clients. It's always that data, and knowing who a person is always at the heart of it. And that's even before like more discussions about personalization have come into the market. Certainly over the last, let's say 3-4 years, that sort of personalized media discussion has sort of grown in intensity, and more brands are looking for not just paid media and sending a message out to users and hoping for the best. It's all about knowing who that person is behind the device. And that's always what we have believed in. And when those discussions have moved over to more personalized activity, we were the first ones to say that's at the heart of what we do. And that's what we can offer to all of our clients, whether that be lead gen or any other products that we offer.
Yeah. When I was working for a brand and a lead buyer, and this was, I don't know, 13 years ago, maybe.
Back in the day.
Little that, in internet years, that's like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
Especially lead gen. But with, affiliate marketing, one of the things we would be hesitant to go to like an affiliate network, because back then you really had no idea who was, where that traffic was coming from to some extent. And you didn't know those individuals behind the screen, as you say, the targeting and a lot of times the data or the traffic that you would get while it may be inexpensive, it also wasn't really that great, you know?
Yeah.
So like, how has that changed now today? And how can people utilize sort of
I
that affiliate base in a more meaningful manner?
I think that was just I think an industry shift post GDPR, right? Basically, kind of taking out the bad actors, the bad apples, the black box approach people, and kind of cleaning up the industry slowly. But I think from our point of view, we believe in transparency. You know, whenever our clients come to us, we always want to tell you, look, these are, let's say we're doing for a lead generation context, for example, look, you want this type of person who will show you how we're generating these leads, where those leads are being generated, who is the publisher, right? So we do have a full transparency approach. And I think that approach is much healthier for the industry because I know, as you know yourself, lead gen always hasn't had the nicest, I guess, opinion in terms of like how the leads are made, right? It's always kind of like the shady side of the media world. So I think it's taken a big shift to kind of clean that up and push transparency and kind of full disclosure to clients as well.
Yeah, I think building on that point as well, lead gen is probably like the worst hit channel when it comes to that type of topic. When you wind back, 10, 15 years, and hearing some of the stories of the people that we've worked with who've been in the industry for all that time, and they talk to us about lead gen and what it was like. I'm not going to repeat some of the things that were said, but it was more like a smash and grab type sort of cowboy channel, let's say. And that's, even with it being such a long time ago, we're even still having those hurdles to overcome now. We're still having those discussions with clients and trying to build back that trust through the activity that we can run and how good it is, like running activity like lead gen through CJ and the value it can bring. But it's certainly like at the forefront where clients have either run it themselves, not asked specialists to support them, or have had a very bad experience of lead gen. And that kind of discussion probably comes up about 80 to 90% of the time. So it's about building that trust back up. What can we offer that's incremental? What can we offer that's like above and beyond any activity that they've done before? And just starting small and sort of building up. That's been the biggest thing. We've had, various campaigns that have started for, 3 to 5K per month, and they've grown to hundreds of thousands. So it's building that trust by testing the water, seeing what works, what data is, what data isn't working, and then we sort of optimize it and shift it from there. But it's certainly like still sort of treading through the weeds, let's say, from that past experience.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious because when I talk with folks there in the UK and here, there seems I'm curious if I can nail this down. I get a sense that there may be a little bit of difference of what lead gen sort of is and what it isn't. And I have sort of a broad thought of lead generation. Really, it's just the act of running marketing to a form, converting it into a lead. And then obviously the industry is about having a marketing company drive that traffic to their own branded form and selling that data, that lead, to a buyer. And that in a sense is sort of lead gen to some extent. Is that how you guys see it as well? Or is it, because what I get sometimes is that it's almost like selling lists of data, which is not, that's not necessarily, that is lead gen, but that's a very, very bad, poor sense of lead gen, What do you think it is over there? What is lead gen sort of defined as over there?
I guess in our context, I would say maybe kind of in our lead generation business unit, I think for us, it's all about intent, right? Because obviously, we can get a list of email addresses passed off to the client, and the client activates that data. The people have no clue how they ended up on that list. First of all,
that's not lead
who the
gen,
advertiser
right?
is, right? That just kind of causes a whole mess, right? It's like client pays, nobody's happy, people are annoyed, right? So it doesn't work. The whole chain doesn't work for anybody. Versus in our point of view, we like to always maintain intent, right? So if we do have a client, right, and they want to target, let's say, pet owners, we have a list or a publisher that has pet owner audience, right? That's a natural crossover, right? The person's going to get the benefit of hearing from a potential advertiser, right? They might have a pet product they might enjoy. So there's kind of value exchange on both sides. The client gets interested potential buyers, and then the users, the prospects, they get, a potential advertiser, a potential coupon discount, right? So we always want to match intent and value, and if you combine intent and value together, both sides are happy, and then it's more of a mutually beneficial value chain for everybody. And then obviously we're generating that lead still. So that's kind of what I would say our approach is. And then Alex, if you want to add on to that.
Yeah, hopefully the drilling isn't too bad. But yeah, to build on those points, I think certainly going back to what we discussed before, like almost bringing it out of that previous mentality and building it as like a stronger channel with the marketing mix, but having it full funnel. So rather than just, like you said, Michael, like your experience of it might be like, a user or a publisher just sending over a load of data. Whereas like what I believe in it as is like building engagement like at the top of the funnel, but then not stopping at that point. So don't just give data to a company and wash your hands of it. It's kind of building that rapport and building that conversation with that data and with the users behind those devices. So it's not just simply about generating the lead that needs to be qualified, that needs to be a qualified lead that's in the right, through the right channels, for example, but also after the point of signing up, actually continuing that conversation. And that's a big thing like that we have tried to offer our clients is having a proper nurture strategy with lead gen. So building on those leads and pushing them further down the funnel to hopefully get an action at the end of it. So get a sale. That's essentially what all advertisers are looking to do. They're looking to build revenue. They're looking to make more money and build their customer base. Yeah. So that's the kind of mindset that we need to have as consultants on behalf of those advertisers. And we work with some third parties that help us do that. We have a lead qualifying system that cleans data before it goes back to the client. So we can verify against fraudulent activity, we can verify against poor quality data, but then they also, another string to their bow is actually continuing that conversation through nurture channels. So pushing an email to that lead or pushing an SMS message to that lead to re-engage them once they have signed up, and the importance of keeping that lead warm. As soon as you leave a load of data or leave customers and don't continue that conversation, that's when lead gen becomes very like more negative, and it doesn't have that ROI that the client is looking for. And we did have an example of quite a large FMCG brand do some lead gen or run some activity through us, but it transpired after a year that they didn't actually activate any of the data that they drove. So clearly they're going to be looking at the channel as they've spent a load of money, it hasn't backed out for them, they haven't seen any sales from it, therefore it's a poorly qualified channel, which just simply isn't the right mentality. And it goes back to that, like building the trust and making sure that the clients know exactly what to do with the data. So that's the kind of thing that we're trying to offer, is not only just lead gen, but being a full consultant through that whole process and continuing that conversation over time.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because you can send somebody the best leads, right? But if they don't know how to work it and close them afterwards, then it's all a waste. And of course, the campaign is horrible, but it has nothing to do with necessarily the campaign. I want to dig in on something just for my own, if you don't mind entertaining me a little bit, because I want to dig into that question about lead gen and sort of campaigns that you guys have. If I'm let's say an insurance company, a protection company, and I want to come to you and I want to drive leads. Am I providing you with the landing page and you guys are going out and finding the publishers or the advertisers to drive the traffic to that landing page, and then subsequently leads generated from that? Or or what is sort of the typical campaign at CJ Affiliate today? What does that sort of look like, and what does the brand provide?
Usually, so we're very flexible on the methodology in terms of running the campaign. So sometimes clients do come to us with a pre-made landing page they want us to push traffic to, or sometimes clients want us to host the page, so we would host a branded page on their behalf. But we always, in an ideal manner, we always want to host a page on our side because that allows us to kind of control the traffic going to it. We partner with our tech vendor Dateable. These guys, they have a very intelligent platform. It basically validates the leads in real time. So obviously we want to make sure we want to host the page and maintain that control on our side. Because obviously if the client is hosting the page, for example, they might not have all the visibility on their side of all the traffic, right? Why are the leads being rejected? Which IP addresses are the leads coming from, right? So we always want to ideally, in an ideal way, host the page ourselves so we have that control and optimization in real time. And then, we do handpick our publishers, where we have our group of publishers and we would speak to them. We always discuss every advertiser with each publisher on an individual basis, right? We have a very bespoke planning approach to our campaign, so we always pick the best publishers for the advertiser. So publishers kind of almost audition to be part of the plan with us, and I kind of make sure we always have the best data sets and the best performing publishers for the campaign. So that's kind of our approach.
Yeah, and it goes back to intent too, right? Because then you can the publishers that are already going to work well with a type of a campaign. It's changed a lot, in the 10 years since. And back when I would go to an affiliate network, it's literally putting your campaign out there and letting people,
everybody to see, right? It's
just grabbing it, and
it should be the other way.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where all the the bad feelings about lead gen or affiliate came from, was just this lack of transparency and this sort of wild west scenario, which I think now with tools like you guys use, fraud detection tools, all this sort of stuff. I think there's another company out there in the UK called Contact State that is providing sort of lead ID type of information, so that sort of it proves that when this lead was born, right? It happened here, it was compliant, all that sort of stuff, which we have in the US with companies called Jornaya and Active Prospect, that really sort of opened the gates for advertisers because it provided more transparency, and they could have a neutral third party sort of validate that, okay, this came from this form and this happened and all this sort of stuff. Because part of the problem was back in the day, people use bots and do all these different things to put bad data into forms that looked like it was real and it came in real time and all this sort of stuff, but it wasn't. But so obviously you guys monitor all that sort of stuff for your clients, which is great. They don't have to worry.
Yeah. For example, let's say we get a complaint about a lead. Let's say a person, like, probably you heard this a million times. Oh, the user said they never signed up to the lead gen campaign. Well, we can literally pull up a form. They signed up at this time, at this IP, in this location, on this browser, on this computer, right? We can get as granular as we can to obviously show that opt-in and give that GDPR consent, right? So that's kind of one of the best parts of working with these, high-tech platforms, right? Because back in the day, how would you get an opt-in? If there was none of that is logged, right? You just have to hope the publisher is telling the truth, right?
Yeah. So let's shift a little bit. You guys obviously have a sort of global view to some extent of a lot of the marketing campaigns that are happening and the different industries that are trending and not trending. There's no secret we've been going through some different, experiences through the pandemic, and more people are sort of online. I'm kind of curious what you guys have seen, just, personal opinion or maybe even factual, what you're seeing on the network. What industries seem to be trending in a positive way, and which ones have sort of had more trouble trying to navigate these, current times?
Yeah, I think it's quite a difficult one to sort of answer. But there's so much data that we've collected and feedback over the last few months since we have been in lockdown, and it's been very interesting to see what has worked well and what hasn't. And more often than not, verticals and brands that we thought we could get a lot of activity out of have actually seen far too much organic traffic or organic activity, and therefore aren't investing in paid media, which wasn't something I thought was a hurdle. But as soon as we had a meeting straight after we went into lockdown, and we discussed which of the verticals that we think we could go after, and which of the brands that we think are going to work well, but also whether that be new brands or brands that we look after now. And there's been a huge chunk of advertisers that have done extremely well. And we had one health client who they basically offer consumers their prescriptions to be delivered. And you can imagine with things like COVID and what's going on, people are frightened to go outside and meet people, and getting something delivered to your door is exactly the type of thing that people are wanting to go after. And that doesn't stop at just those types of clients. That goes for any subscription-based activity. And we've seen things like food delivery services have absolutely smashed it. But again, they fall part of that organic growth as well. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that we have seen. Obviously, travel is a huge part of CJ, always has been, and CJ is a specialist in that vertical. But as we all know, travel has been massively affected, and we're starting to see glimpses of sort of travel as a vertical coming back to the way it was, but it's certainly not sort of the activity that it was before last year. And we saw huge amounts of revenue coming through that. But as soon as COVID hit, we all know people weren't traveling around, and therefore brands were starting to pull activity. However, we've started to have those conversations of getting back to normal. And lead gen is a really good channel to start with. And something that we've tried to explain to all of our clients is lead gen is a great thing to build that engagement and build that top of the funnel activity. So when you are at a point to start investing in a more sales type message, then you have a lot of data to activate. And again, it goes back to that point I made about continuing that conversation. And let's say you built your CRM with first party data at the start of the year, and you've continued that conversation with those users over time, then they're much more likely to go onto your site and purchase. So therefore, doing something like lead gen over these times is a really good way of promoting a brand and building that intent. But certainly the biggest vertical that has done very well, being positively affected, is FMCG, so fast moving consumer goods. And we work with two of the biggest globally, and they have released many articles. The senior management have released many articles from their side saying that they have always wanted to invest more in during these times, so during COVID, and get more helpful messages out to consumers as well. So rather than just potentially capitalizing on a negative effect going on in the world, they're more trying to support and help people. So it's a case of giving them options about staying at home, what they can do, fitness, recipes, like that type of thing. And that's seen a massive benefit. We've seen huge conversion rates. The traffic has been really good. CTRs, lead volumes have all been very high, and the client has been very happy and has continued to invest, which has been great. But it's making sure that you're supporting and helping a consumer base rather than trying to capitalize on it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because, I think a lot of companies almost kind of froze, right? They froze and go, now I can't.
We're going to pause activity, right, until we figure it out.
Yeah,
yes.
What am I going to do? But having that communication actually and just shifting it from, hey, buy, but also being more educational and supporting the community is actually probably from a brand perspective more worthwhile for that dollar than even not doing anything at all, of course, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We've seen that trend with a lot of our CJ affiliate advertisers, because we have a lot of different publishers that can target, key workers, people that work, essential workers, whatever the naming convention is on the US side. But yeah, people that are essential workers, key workers, that we can target them with discounts, right? Give them a specific discount because they work for the NHS or they work for the fire department or police, right? So we can kind of leverage that. And it kind of help those workers, and the brands are kind of on that way, because obviously loads of brands were giving back, especially in the UK, people that worked at the hospitals, they got discounts and whatnot. So a lot of brands are, again, like Alex said, not capitalizing, but helping, the whole kind of environment now. So we had loads of cool advertisers that kind of taking that more approach to help.
That's smart. It's smart. Yeah. And very, conscious of what's happening, because I think when brands are deaf to the surroundings of what's happening, comes off, aggressive and inappropriate.
Yeah, exactly.
And distasteful. I'm kind of curious, Alex, and help me understand, you said consumer goods. What type of consumer goods are sort of wrapped up into that that group?
Yeah, so it's basically every sort of homeware consumer good that you would use, whether that be shampoo, sort of sanitary products,
got it,
sort of food-based products as well. It sort of covers a whole suite of different goods, and especially, I don't know if it was the same in the US, like during like the start of lockdown, but there was a huge problem in supermarkets just simply not having enough produce to send around to everyone, and it was a continued problem for probably about 2 months here. And what our client does, they obviously supply a lot of those products to supermarkets, and it's trying to get out that message to the user that we can help them through discounts. Because another problem is that people are actually losing their jobs. People are going on furlough. People are actually being let off, and it was a big sort of cultural shift and social problem. But what we can do and what those brands can do is support and help those users. So find different ways in which they can purchase the products online, and giving them discounts to save money. So it's a whole suite of different produce and products that we offer.
Yep.
And they're very big products, like in terms of notoriety in the UK. So a lot of people know them, and when we do put that message in front of them, they do get a lot of engagement. But we probably saw about a 10% shift upwards on all engagement, like through those initial months during the start of lockdown. That's so it was huge. Absolutely massive. Yeah. And that's why the brand sort of continued to invest.
That's that's huge. 10%. I mean, when especially in terms of conversions, when we're talking about just half percentages are big, movement numbers. That's big. Speaking of big, what, maybe not just necessarily on your guys' network or inside your organization, but maybe your opinion on what are the sort of biggest sort of industries that are taking advantage of lead generation? Is it consumer goods? Is it finance? Is it insurance? Is it home services? So, maybe there's a couple. I'm just kind of curious.
I think because the CJ network is so big and we have so many advertisers and clients globally. But maybe in a lead gen context, I would always say FMCG is, lead gen it always works well, because obviously FMCGs wants to give away samples, coupons, discounts, right? So that's a natural fit for FMCG. Automotive, again, test drives, brochure downloads, right? Because it's a big involvement buying a car. So the more you can educate a person while building that demand, the more effective that's going to be. Finance, again, insurance, those are big for lead gen, because again, there's a lot of decision, a lot of consideration when purchasing a life insurance product or insurance product. So again, that lead gen also helps to educate the user as well as show the client, hey, this guy's interested in buying, maybe you should educate him a bit more and then convert them into a customer. So again, and then what else? A lot of home stuff, like home improvement, DIY stuff, especially now because of Corona. So again, those kind of the verticals that we've seen, pick up Any else I missed out, Alex? Maybe more streaming stuff, like.
Yeah, I think the biggest shift, or the biggest onboarding of clients we've had has been like streaming services, so TV streaming or downloads, and well, certainly in my time of working in the team, I don't think we've ever worked with those types of clients before.
No.
And we actually onboarded 2 during that period of lockdown. And we saw a huge uptake in their activity, and they actually grew to 2 of our largest campaigns, like for the year. And they actually signed off budget for the rest of the year. So it was more people spending time at home, more people are trying to get stimulated in different ways, because you can't go out and you can't, go to restaurants to see your friends. And it's all about different ways you can find sort of happiness, I guess. So capitalizing on that and showing that we can offer them services to help that, and offering a message of a 30-day free trial if you do sign up for the streaming service, like that type of thing has always hit very well over the last couple of months. So that's been really, really interesting that we've seen, and sort of continuing that journey with those clients, because one of them, they're actually a UK-based streaming service. So you can imagine in the US, that type of activity and that type of British content goes down really well. And they saw a huge, even before COVID, they've seen a lot of activity coming from different markets. Now, being in England, being in Britain and trying to push that message is always going to be harder, right? Because people have got loads of different streaming services here, and loads of access to things like the BBC, and getting content from there. So trying to push a solely British-based streaming service in the UK was always going to be hard. And the fact that we saw huge engagement and huge activity from the beginning, sort of speaks volumes to people's views, and people's shift in culture and shift in social situations. But then also, I think not sort of campaign based or advertiser based, but certainly a point that we've noticed in the sales teams is going after smaller brands that haven't done activity before. So because of the sort of unsettled nature of COVID, and the fact that people are less likely to be shifting budgets to a new provider or shifting activity over to a new network, and they're sort of gathering wood over that time, we noticed that going after smaller brands that haven't dipped their toe into lead gen or affiliate has worked really well. And it's sort of building up that trust, but showing that the channel can really add value, even though they haven't tested it yet. Let's use this time effectively, and sort of see how things go.
Yeah. Did you have something to add, Karol?
I was going to say, I think one thing I was personally surprised about the success of the 2 streaming clients Alex mentioned, because obviously the streaming market is already so saturated with Netflix, Amazon, Hulu in the US, right? You have a new one coming out, pretty much every month you have a new streaming service, but just obviously push these 2 campaigns, right? And it was a good offer, 30 days free trial, and it actually performed very well, right? So I think people, even if industry, I think now is very saturated, very competitive, because obviously this Corona has kind of shifted everybody to maybe try new stuff, maybe give something they haven't tried before a chance. There's that chance to kind of get in that front of mind in front of a customer with a potential brand as well. So I think there's a lot of room for experimentation now. That's why I guess, like Alex said, speaking to smaller brands, it's easier to get a smaller brand to invest a little bit more on a potential campaign than a big brand to take a risk, right? Because there's obviously way more stakeholders, there's much more processes and bureaucracy on that side as well. So
yeah, I think that's a really good point. Even the advertisers, they're willing to test these things, but also publishers. So we're only as strong as our publisher network, because CJ doesn't own any of the data themselves. It's all through those third parties. So that's why people and publishers has always been at the heart of what we do as well. And we're only as strong as those data sets and those publishers. So what we've seen as well is that certain publishers are willing to test different products or different advertisers they weren't usually accustomed to. Because there's a sense of that wanting to like come together and support each other, and we've worked for a long time together, and therefore I'm happy to like help you out on these different points. So I think that's been quite interesting as well, is that people have sort of come together as a vertical or as an industry, and it's sort of, we've reaped the benefits of that because we've seen higher engagement, and we've actually generated more revenue for our clients as well.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious. It's great to hear that smaller brands are coming, because there's a real advantage to, I think, lead gen. We're not all we can't all be marketing experts and be experts in our product and all this sort of stuff, and being able to leverage, partnerships and publishers is really, really powerful. But I'm kind of curious, what on the big ticket side of like items? So I don't know. I don't know if auto sales is a real great example, but I'm thinking of like mortgage is sort of like a big, like refinance, like a refinance or remortgage is sort of a big ticket sort of item, right? I mean, what other sort of campaigns do you guys see that are on the big ticket item side of things?
So, I mean, maybe big ticket wise, it maybe the B2B side, right? Potentially, targeting a CEO with a meeting request or a webinar, right? So that's kind of on our side. Because, this year, in terms of campaigns, we haven't had anything on the big ticket side. It was more like FMCG and automotive and stuff like that. But on the mortgage finance side, yes, that is a big ticket. We do work on a financial equity release vertical as well. So that's where we find the big ticket CPL costs, and obviously the big ticket prices if the customer converts to purchase product or service. So that's kind of where we are currently.
Are the publishers that you guys have, are they mainly doing email, or are they utilizing other channels?
So yeah, primarily lead gen, it was always email for us. So we always have email. We have display on site, ads directly on our website, newsletters. We have programmatic, right? So we have publishers that could do programmatic and make it back out to a CPL or CPA. We also have, social. We could put ads on, publisher social groups, Instagram pages as well. So we have a variety of channels, and kind of the approach we like to take is we are channel agnostic, because from our opinion, if a lead converts from an email or a display ad or anything, it's still a lead should be treated equally. And obviously after it passes all the validations and all that. But yeah, we were kind of channel agnostic to the way we generate the leads from our side.
Yeah, I think it's down to the size of the network that we've got. We have awesome publisher development teams that are solely there to build that network, and therefore our suite of channels that we can run always is adapting and growing. And we always want to promote a multi-channel approach rather than just siloing or being focused on one channel. And it's a case of testing, seeing what works, and then focusing on that. But you can imagine with such a huge reach of data and publishers, there's a huge opportunity for like different channels that we can generate leads from. So it's all about understanding what is going to work best for the advertiser and for the consumer, and then sort of whittling it down to a best performing channel or best performing type of activity. And that's certainly what we try and do. But like that sort of email on site and social display channels are always like the sort of first port of call for us when it comes to generating leads.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I mean, so what do you guys see as sort of the bigger challenges that are maybe being overcome? Is it transparency for the lead gen sort of channel that is continuing to be used to build trust? Is it a lack of trust that was sort of always a problem with brands sort of utilizing the channel? And do you see that improving? And how do you see it sort of? What can we do as an industry to continue to improve that?
I mean, I guess transparency is obviously, so in terms of from like, let's say a client's reservations usually lie with, will this work? And, transparency, right? So I think, if we have transparency from the beginning, right, the advertiser knows exactly what we're presenting, what's happening, what the goals are, what their goals are, what are we promoting to facilitate those goals. If you kind of start off the conversation with transparency, kind of an open book approach, that kind of helps to dissuade that reservation at first. And then also, I guess but also it's a kind of two-way approach, because obviously we run these lead generation campaigns, we can generate loads of data, loads of leads. But if the client is unwilling to work with us and feedback us, the results, how the data perform, right, working with us to optimize, it makes it a bit more difficult as well. So I think from our point of view, the client has to give some as well, give that feedback, give us that reporting from their side, and we can obviously, match those, concerns, and obviously, manage the client's expectation. But obviously, from our side, always promoting it as a transparent approach to lead generation.
Yeah. I think cost is always like at the top of that. So companies or advertisers wanting to get as cheap a CPL rate as possible, which I guess goes for a lot of advertising channels as well. But it's certainly something like it's affected quite heavily with lead gen because of that sort of previous mentality of what it is, plus the fact that channels and other companies can do it very cheaply. So if you look at, we always are up against social, so like Facebook and Instagram. So Facebook, they do their own lead generation activity, and obviously everyone knows who Facebook is. They've used it before. It's a huge chunk of the marketing mix goes through social. So a lot of brands, they go with what they trust and what they know, and not necessarily like look at the benefits of it or look at the quality. And certainly, like, I don't know about you, Karol, but I could count on so many fingers, like the amount of times that I've come up against that. And you delve a bit deeper, and you ask the client how much they're paying for a lead, and it's 60-70% lower than like what we are offering. So like what we have to do is, again, going back to like that longer process of building trust, but more often than not, it's going to a cheap channel. Therefore, it's all a vicious circle of then having a bad experience and not trusting the channel, not seeing the ROI, and then we're all affected. So it's just slowly but surely like getting through that process with different advertisers and seeing what we can do to help.
Yeah, I think more about what Alex mentioned, kind of, clients already using Facebook internally themselves, just kind of digging deep a bit more about why they're using Facebook. Like, okay, so you said price, right? So, okay, so is the data performing? How many leads are converting? And then usually you hear stories, well, most of the data doesn't perform, but the 5% does work, makes it back out because we already paid such a small amount initially. So then we're kind of like, well, okay, would you want to spend a bit more and get a better result, with more, and you have more visibility on the data? Well, then they're a bit more interested. They kind of hear more about the analysis you can do, deep dive on the data, versus, Facebook spits out loads of, email addresses to you with some, basic information, but that's it really. You can't really probe into Facebook, right? You can't really call up Mark Zuckerberg and say, hey, where is this running? How are you generating this data, right? Can you give me opt in, opt out? They're so big, they'll just tell you to, go home, go try somebody else, right? So because it's more of an automated approach, it's kind of what you put in is what you get out, right?
Yeah. As soon as the advertiser then says, okay, yeah, we'll pay a bit more and we'll expect like higher conversion rates, and then our neck's on the block. We're like, okay, now we've got to generate higher.
Yeah, the challenge. There's two things I think that pose the problem. Is one is the analytics and the reporting on the backside, because I'm sure some of those conversations where you go, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the cost per lead is, right? It really doesn't.
If it backs out, does it back out?
If it's back out, but it also, there's 2 points I think I want to make. Is one is it doesn't, what it's the cost per sale, right? How much does it cost from that marketing channel to create that sale? And if that's, a goal, then how do we back into that based on cost and conversion and all that sort of stuff? And you can work into that no matter what. So you could be paying £100 for a lead, or $1 or a pound for a lead. And if it backs out to the same cost per sale, then who cares, right? The problem though is that usually with cheap data, there's a cost that you're not taking into account, which are labor costs, which is how many leads do I have to continue to process? Of even if I'm buying 1,000 leads at a low cost, I could maybe buy 200 at a more expensive cost. Is going to back out. Now I'm not having to call through all that stuff. I'm also not at risk from a compliance standpoint either. Right now, the more data being generated, you could argue the more risk you're at, right? Potentially. But now I'm not having to call through all those, send emails, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it becomes more about efficiency and effectiveness versus just buy the cheapest lead. And I know buyers and brands do this all the time because it's easy, right? It's easy to go,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, this is only going to cost me X amount, but you are way up here. That's an immature way of thinking about the full funnel, full process of what the real goal is, which is the cost per sale. What is the cost per sale? And how do we get it?
I think it's always educating the client that short-term thinking might be good, it might feel good, but it won't work long-term, right? Because I mean, we are humans, right? We want to get instant gratification, right? They want to see one lead, one sale instantly, right? But if you kind of step back and look at it as more of a long-term plan over a year time, you might generate 100 leads, but by you nurturing them throughout the year, those will become long-term paying customers down the line, right? That could be worth up to thousands over a year versus, one quick sale, they'll buy once, no repeat customers, bye. So if you take that more long-term approach, it has a benefit for the advertiser and also us, right? Because if we have a solid lead gen campaign in place that's running always on, it's constantly good lead, good data, everybody's happy, right? So maintaining that long-term approach instead of a hit and run, like what we're kind of known for.
And it's not going to always work, right? It's not, and that's why the transparency, the sharing of data, ongoing data, how is this working, conversion data, so you guys can optimize is important because, I mean, I've been in this business to know that you can never just press play and it just runs. Be magic.
There's never a smooth campaign.
There's never.
There's always issues, right?
Things change, whatever it is, and you have to always be very attentive to the performance of the campaign. And if when I was running lead gen campaigns for a lead generation company where we sold leads to insurance, mortgage, and solar, very rarely could you ever just plug and play something and let it go. It's always sort of moving. It's always optimizing. And if you're running blind without having that data from the buyers of the leads and being able to optimize, you're really running blind. You just, so you need that information from them. And so when brands work, I mean, they have to understand that it's going to take, it may be a hit right from the get-go, right? I mean, it may. There's times where campaigns work straight out the gate. But in most cases, you have to kind of
the golden goose clients.
Yeah, those happen though, right?
Yeah. No, we had it like our streaming clients. Literally, we switched it on. I was like, wow, this is working better than it should. And we were like, maybe it's a tracking issue, but no, it's actually perfect. Perfect offer, perfect publisher. The clients actually wants to work with us. Those three came together, and then you got
perfect.
That's funny because you thought that something was broken. You're like, wait,
like this is going too well. Something's broken. Yeah, it's basically how it is.
We're good at what we do.
Yeah. Don't anybody touch anything,
Yeah. But more often than not, the clients do touch something, and then when
Yeah, well, I know, and that's the thing. When someone pauses it, and you're like, "Oh, you don't want to pause right now. This thing is freaking humming along," And, and then, of course, when you turn it back on, something is different. That's why I think it's important to have conversations and be able to know that this is a real partnership. And I think the way maybe I have an altruistic sort of opinion of lead generation, but the partnerships that you can have from a brand and a marketing company and agency is really powerful. If you guys work simultaneously together, you can really scale to levels that there's no possible way you could do on your own,
And also obviously including publishers into this, right? Because I think they're the unsung heroes of all of this. They're the boots on the ground. They're telling us, look, these people might like this incentive, this offer might be better if you tweak it slightly, right? Maybe can we run it on this channel, that channel, right? So also not almost looking at the publishers like, I say A, you do A. It's more of looking at them as a part of the chain as well, as a consultant on our side as well. So we also like to have that approach. Because usually people will say, all right, well, client gives us budget. It was like, all right, CJ has budget. All right, smash it out, tell the publisher to do. But it's more of a, we need to speak to the publishers, right? Because they take care of their data. That's their data, right? That's their that's how they make a living. So we need to work with them as well in a more consultative approach as well.
Yeah,
so.
that's what CJ are very, very good at. Is that sort of people management side of the business.
People's network choice, aren't we? Pretty much every year.
The internal teams and the publishers, like the two most important things that they abide by. And certainly through lockdown, it's been even more so that CJ have stepped up to the plate and really looked after everyone in the business. And, you know, we've only had sort of I think it was like 1 or 2 people that have actually left over that time period. And it really speaks volumes to like what they do, because the people and the account managers and the client development teams and the directors, they really want to work hard for CJ as a company. And therefore that sort of hard work and that effort that they're putting in reflects back on what advertisers are investing and putting into the company. So having that shift over to like CJ and that mentality, we've really seen the benefits of it, not only as a team and like personally, but then also like in that sort of activity in our campaigns, really benefiting from it as well.
Yeah, well, I love it. I mean, I think if we can continue to, you know, bring companies like yours and others that are passionate about doing things the right way and creating transparency and, you know, working together on making campaigns successful, I think lead gen will continue to grow in the UK. You know, we've seen it in the US. I feel like the UK is maybe, you know, 3 or 4 years sort of behind in the evolution, not necessarily in any kind of like technology or maturity, but just in the evolution of transparency and the buyers being sort of more understanding of what's taking place on the publisher side. And now in the US, they're a little bit more, I think, mature and understanding, and they're almost like a well-oiled machine at this point. I think the UK has some work to do, right? About, you know, maybe getting rid of those, you know, bad actors, those people that are bringing down the industry, and focusing on the companies that really do care. And because this is a huge opportunity for brands to be able to scale beyond, you know, just their own internal agency or whatever they're doing, and partner with companies like yours to drive leads. And it's not a bad word. Leads is not a bad word. It's a good thing. It's a great way to drive new consumers and sales on a cost per action basis or cost per lead basis. And so I appreciate you guys coming on and talking about what you guys are doing. And I kind of hope maybe we can do it again, maybe in another couple of months.
Absolutely.
And just
we'll happily take time and speak with you.
Talk a little more shop and talk about what the industry, and maybe in a couple months we'll sort of, you know, be a little bit further, hopefully be, you know, out of this COVID Corona thing.
Well, second lockdown is starting soon in the UK. So
is it the second one?
Well, basically now households of more than 6 people cannot mingle anymore. So that's the limit now.
Yeah. Well,
basically, we should have some drinks on our next podcast.
we'll drink.
You know, here in the U.S., you know, it's a completely different animal.
It's Jesus takes the wheel approach in America. I find
that's exactly what it is.
Well, I'm a fan of that approach. I feel we gotta get it together back home. I hope I have a country to come back to.
That's interesting. What's the from what we've said over the last hour? Like, does that resonate? Like what sort of Americans have been feeling as well? Has it been sort of a similar process? Have there been any changes that you've sort of noticed as well?
From a lead gen perspective?
Yeah,
I mean, we have industries that are doing very, very well and growing. Actually, there's not a lot of industry in lead gen per se that have really suffered. I mean, the industry as a whole has been very strong and stable. I think as a whole, certainly there are some outliers. But when I think of lead gen in the US, some of the biggest industries that utilize leads to grow their businesses are insurance, auto insurance, health insurance, life insurance is probably the biggest in the US. All those, you know, companies buy, you know, millions of leads. And what I mean by lead is somebody that raised their hand, filled out a form, said, I want a life insurance policy or auto insurance, you know, and then that is sold to XYZ insurance company.
Yeah.
And they have been doing very, very well. Mortgage has been doing okay, but I think it goes back to one thing that you were mentioning earlier, Alex, was here in mortgage rates are so low that they don't really need leads because now they're just getting a lot of organic traffic. So that's that industry that always has to deal with the different fluctuations of interest rates. You have solar that seems to be doing well. Home services is doing better now. It sort of suffered at first because, you're talking about people going into your home to fix the, whatever it is, or so that stopped, but that's back. So generally speaking, lead gen in the US is good. And
it's
strong.
a massive market in the US. That's why it's just such a massive market with
so
a lot of incumbent players. Because obviously it started in America, didn't it? Everything starts in the good old US.
What's interesting too is that here, like there, they had a stimulus plan, right? So a lot of people went on unemployment and got money, and are getting sometimes money that they wouldn't even get from their normal job, right? On the lower end. And so consumer spending is actually increased over, and I think maybe same there, but it's actually gone up over the last 8 months versus going down. And that's why we see the stock market here just continuing to go up and do so well. Meanwhile, the economy is certain economies are struggling, like restaurants and all that kind of stuff. But like, it's very odd. It's very strange, what's happening. But from a lead gen perspective, things still seem to be, humming along and doing well.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to know because, as you said, like it sort of reflects over here what's going on in the US, like over a period of time.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm missing things, but I'm sure I'm missing some negatives. But I mean, generally speaking, it seems to be doing well.
Do you think that's going to continue like for next year as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think at least from I think the demand for leads in those verticals that I mentioned will still remain normal or strong. I don't see a decline in that. So here companies are so reliant. I think they don't want to say that, but they do rely on third party lead generation. The companies here that generate the leads and sell them, there's a big portion of their budget goes to that. And obviously they drive their own traffic and they use, publishers and all that to drive traffic to their own pages or their other campaigns. But it's such a big opportunity for them to scale beyond their own brand, because that's sort of one of the benefits of lead gen traditionally here in the US is that if I'm a mortgage company, and I want to, get leads across the country or whatever it may be, my brand is only so powerful or well known, right? I mean, like one of the big banks here is Quicken Loans. It's a big, and they do a ton of refinance, remortgage business, and they have a great brand, but they buy tons. They need more. So they buy a lot of leads from third-party companies like Lending Tree, other brands, right? So there's other, lead gen companies that are using their brand to drive more people, and then they sell that to Quicken Loans. They're doing that because Quicken Loans is capped out for their scale on just their brand alone. They can only buy so much paid search. They can only do so much email. But if you have multiple brands doing the same thing, now I can expand that reach and network and get even more leads. So it's so massive that they need, these partnerships to continue to feed the business.
And you could never do that internally, right? Because obviously, to start an internal lead gen team, right? You need to, let's say, you need a call center. You need a person that obviously knows how to drive traffic. You need somebody to build the assets. You need somebody to tracking expert. You need somebody to analyze data, right? It's such a big investment to obviously get an internal resource to lead gen that it's just so much more sufficient just to obviously outsource it, give it to a third party, work with them in a consultative manner, right? Knowing exactly what they're doing, what you want them to do, and obviously spending that money you would have spent to build an internal team just on the actual data and getting those more leads, right?
100%. And you can hold them accountable differently, right? I know you hate to hear this, but you can shut off a campaign. right?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, if you're internally, like, let's say, you know, run a lead gen team internally, you're working for some insurance company, and the CEO says, why is this data bad? You're like, well, I don't know. Versus we can either see you ask a consultant, they'll be like, look, we tell you the publisher, the opt and all that, and explain to you why you might think it's bad. You know? So there's obviously that story, the quality.
So it kind of reflects in other parts of advertising or agencies where, because of that sort of shift over to more personalized media, and agencies try to take that on themselves, and they start adding in different parts to their tech stack, whether that be like an audience specialist or an email specialist or like an ad server, for example. And they try and fit all these different things together, and obviously you lose a lot of reach, you lose a lot of scale in doing that when you start trying to match loads of different data sets into one. And it's the same thing for lead gen. Like, as soon as you start trying to use that internally and trying to add in lots of different specialists into the mix, then it gets expensive. So that's what we try and promote as a company, is like, come to a specialist like us and we can manage all of those things for you. And especially like on that sort of people side or data side, it's all our own data. So it's more powerful to an advertiser, and you're not losing as much scale as you're trying to manage that yourself, and just keep it as lean as possible.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, you know, you guys sort of know the recipe, right? So to speak, of what's successful, but you also, if it doesn't,
and it's not a secret recipe, right? It's not a secret recipe.
But I think the key is, though, that if it doesn't taste right, you also know what to add and what to take out, right? Because, you know, the first go at some, you know, it may not quite be right, but you know exactly, okay, this is what I see, so now I can add this, and you can make those adjustments. And that learning curve, because you've seen it so many different times, so much quicker than somebody that's trying to sit there and try to bake a cake out of you know, ingredients that they don't even know it's going to work. Hopefully, you know, things continue to improve, and hopefully, you know, and like I said, let's touch base in a couple months and do this again and continue to talk about the UK and what we can do as a group and as a conference. I mean, what we're trying to do is to come to the UK and bring some of the things that we have in the US, but not only that, but just bring an opportunity for the industry to come together and start having these conversations, you know, start talking about, okay, well, this is bad. How do we improve it? This is what we need, you know, and just working as an industry to grow and mature is our goal. And so it's great to work with companies like CJ that wants to do the same thing. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having us. We'd love to more of these and partner a bit more.
I mean, we'll definitely see you at the next Lead Generation World once it is, video, like in person, right? We can obviously shake hands and.
Yeah, because we were due to come. We were due to be there.
That's how.
Well, so it was going to be next month, but obviously we moved to April. And April, I think, will be much more suitable for an in-person. I think it's important to have an in-person conference. I think virtual is good, but it's just not a.
It's not.
It's not the same thing. So it's important for people to get together and connect. Before we wrap up, if someone wants to learn more or contact either of you guys, how do they go about doing that?
Well, they can either send an email to us. We can share our emails, but basically my email would be karol.kelner@cj.com. Very, very simple. We can share that to you, the contact details later. So.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll throw that up for you on this so people can grab it and reach out to you guys with any questions. Otherwise, I appreciate it. You guys have a good rest of your day, and we'll plan to talk maybe in another month or so.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. It was good to speak to you. Have a good day.
Thank you.